Yeah, today we're going to discuss about these topics. The first of all, we're going to discuss about a few things related to pom.xml. Then we'll be discussing about Spring Bean scopes. We have different types, like the prototype, singleton, request, and session. Then we'll be creating an object using. We already created an object, getBean. Let's see in a different way. Okay. So first of all, let's go to pom.xml. I selected my Spring Core 5x using 5.x using my own project. Okay. You can see this is my pom.xml. If you look at here, we have a Spring. When we just mention the Spring context, automatically its related jar files are going to get downloaded. I just mentioned Spring Core. See, it has automatically downloaded context, AOP, beans, core, JCL expression, all the stuff. Okay, expression API, because it knows that internally it uses all these things. Okay, so it has downloaded all those things. Now, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the few dependencies which requires multiple jar files. So here, if you look at log4j, at the bottom we have log4j. So for the log4j, to make use of the log4j, we need to make use of the two dependencies. What are those dependencies? One is API, other one is core. So only then it's going to download. So if you look at both these log4j, API and the core, we have the same version. Let's say that we have the similar kind of the dependency which has multiple versions, which is repeating multiple versions, just like here for the log4j it's repeating 2.11.2 two times. If it is repeating multiple times, it's really not the good practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a property with a user defined tag and going to mention here, okay, as a property. So for that, you need to go to log4j, create any user defined value. I'm going to say log4j2 and the version. Okay, I'm going to mention the value here. The value is 2.1.2. Remove this and I'm going to place it here. So this is the value. So now this value I'm going to mention here as dollar flower brackets. Inside it I'm going to mention the version. Okay, I'm going to say save. Okay, so this way the repeated versions can be placed as property. Okay, uh, I forgot to place it in flower brackets. You can just try it. Right click on the project, say run as Java application. It's going to work according to the so you can see these values. 10 is the ID value, present in int. A.S.I.F is the name. It's a string. 10,000.0 is a salary present as double. That's what displaying here. So now as we are done with the pom.xml, let's go to the application context bean configuration file. Here you can see we have one bean with the ID. It can be, we can mention ID or name, anything is fine. So we have the class. The class we are mentioning the complete full path of the class. com.as string com.4x maximum job person. If you look at here, you can see this is the complete path. Okay. com.asif.spore and app and all those things. Now we have the property. Property nothing about the fields. Fields are nothing but instant variables which are declared in the private in the person as private. So this is the thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to discuss about this class, fully qualified class. Okay. If you look at me take an sample example. So let's go to the configuration file. You can see here we have the class and the fully qualified name as a person. So if you took any framework, maybe Spring or Hibernate, anything, see all the classes uses all the frameworks uses class.forename and new instances methods to create object. So if you don't know what is the class.forename, let me show an example. I created a project with the name sample, and it I have the program my program. That's main method. Let's say that this is a class.forename. Let me won't type it again. Let me use try catch block. In the try, I'm going to mention o dot class dot for name. So class should be caps. Going to say string of class name, and let's mention. Let me. We all know that string is a class. It's not a primitive variable. It's a class. And so I'm just verifying whether this string is a class or not. Okay, this is a class. I'm going to say, if this executes, I'm going to say this is valid class. Okay, if this line is successful, it's going to execute this. If it fails, it's going to come to exception and uh, going to type e dot get trace stack. Okay, it's going to print things. Let's run it. Right click on another Java application. You can see it went to stack. It's saying stack element and something. Okay, it got failed. So I think we need to mention fully qualified name java.lang. Now let's try it. Right click on it. Say run as Java application. Yeah, this is a valid class. Now this complete qualified name. Even if you go to context, you can see we have mentioned complete qualified name. So in the all the frameworks, it uses class for name and new instances to create. It uses these methods to create the objects. Okay, that's what I meant to say. So now let's go to the scopes. We have the bean p. Inside p we have three properties. Okay, name and salary. Okay, that's the thing. Now what we're going to do is right click on it, right click on the bean, not the properties, bean. If you go down, you can see by default we don't have anything. If I drop down, you can see the first one is prototype, request, session, and singleton. So first of all, let's try with the by default. Let's try with the default value. I'm going to keep spaces. Go to the my app program, which is present here. My app. Opening this. If you come here, you can see, yeah, this part. You can see getBean. When I call getBean, how many objects is going to create? We all know that the getBean call method calls the it creates the object. Okay, so how many times it's going to create an object? That's the question. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this and this and check. I'm going to repeat it. I'll do one thing. Say control one object. Say object one. I'm going to repeat this for the 5 times. I'm going to rename the reference value. So have the so getBean is going to call create the method and it's going to point to the object one in the same way I have repeated for the 5 times. So as I said, by default, the scope of the bean configuration file is singleton. So let me run. We never know what's going to happen. So with the console, with the log4j, let me open the console a bit. So here you can see this is the last one. Finish the creating instance of the bean, retain the cache instance of a singleton bean. You can say it's singleton, it's saying a singleton bean. Okay, singleton. So which means that so so this is my this is my object. This is my the bean object. So now I've created multiple instances variable reference variables like so this is one. So this is object one created another object either a singleton. It's going to again point to the same thing, and that way we have 4 pointers reference variables which is pointing to the same object. One is this is object 2, this is object 3, and this is object 4, and this is object 5. So you can see it's pointing, all these objects are pointing to the same object. Reference variables are pointing to the same object. This for the singleton, the singleton. Okay, so let's go to the configuration file again. Yeah, this one. To drag this down, and I'm going to change it as a singleton. No, by default it's singleton. Again, I'm going to change singleton. I'm going to save it. Control S. Now going to the source, you can see you can see I don't know. I think it's by mistake I've added it. So you can see as I have selected scope is equal to singleton. Okay. So even though you mention it or not, by default it's going to be singleton. Let's run it again. You can see it's singleton. So let's do one thing. Let's change it to the uh, prototype and see how many times it's going to create object. Bean, click on it, go down, select it and select say prototype. Now save it. Again go to it and save run as Java application. Okay. Yeah, now you can see so how many times it has created the instance. This is one time, this is two times, this is three times, third time, this is fourth time. So you can see it has created multiple times. So we can get to know that it has with a prototype it's going to create multiple objects. The graphical presentation, if I go to this thing, it's a let me remove this and for the prototype for each and every object. Okay, we have five, right? So one, two, three, four, and four and five. So it's going to create the five objects. This one is pointing to object one. This one is pointing to object three. This one is pointing to with the reference variable the four. This is with the five. This is object one, and this is object two. And this is three. This is four, and this is five. So this is with the prototype. Okay, this is with the prototype. Let's see about this. And so this is we have verified the multiple instances of the singleton and the prototype using this thing. We have the some other way. We also have the some other way. Let's see what is it. We can use debugger. Yes, we can use debugger and verify how many the beans it's creating. Okay, so let's try with the debugger. So now I'm going to clear this. I'm not going to look into log4j logs and verify. I'm going to use um, debugger tool. So for that, first of all, let me go to my let me go to app.java. First of all, I'm going to try with a singleton. Okay, so let me select my configuration file and select this and set as singleton. Okay, now we're not going to use this system out.println to verify it. We're going to use debugger. Using system.out.println is not a good way. So before that, let's try with it. Let's see how it is creating. Okay. Before using debugger, let's use this. So I'm just printing it. created multiple objects, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say sys out and only print that particular reference variable. It's going to show me the name of it. 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now our scope is uh, singleton. Let's run this. For the singleton, you can see the difference variable. We have the same value. The person printing the object. So you can see the same address. There is no change. So let's change the scope. It as prototype. Go to here, click on it, and change the scope as prototype. Save it, and again go to app.java. Right click on the project, save as Java application. Okay. Now you can look at the address. Look at the objects of the 5 objects. Person.6, you can see the address of all these are different. So which means that it has created multiple objects. That's the proof. But now let's go with the debugging tool. I'm not going to use all this stuff. Okay. So first of all, let me try with the prototype. I'm going to say singleton. I'm going to select the bean and say singleton. Save it. Then I'm going to go to the source. You can see here the scope is singleton. Okay. You can also remove it, but for the satisfaction, I'm going to keep it. Now let me go to app.java. Now I'm going to place my breakpoint so that it stops there. Let's say I want to keep my breakpoint here just before creating an object. This is my breakpoint. Okay, let me add it here. Okay, let me add it here. Okay, and say right click on it, say debug as Java application. Or else you can go to the bug. Where is bug? I don't see a debug. Yeah, you can click it. Debug. What happened? Yeah, you can see the debug item. I went to for the enterprise. It's not going to show, but for the Java, you can see here at the top we have debug as. I'm going to say debug as. Yeah, debug as Java application. It's asking us to open the debug perspective. I'm going to say switch. Okay. So wow, now you can see where my the pointer is. You can see it has right now it's at the reader, so it has executed these 2 lines. Now it's pointing to this. So we can go line by line execution, or else you can complete the execution in the single go by clicking resume. But for now, at the right side, you can see all the variables and it's saying that I kept the breakpoint at the line 12. Good. Here it's going to show all the variables. You can see args, the main here, this one is one variable, and the container is the other variable, this one, and the reader, this other variable which showing all the values. You can see there is nothing, string has nothing, and it's giving a unique ID for each and every variable. For this args, it has given 28. For the default listable bean factor, it is given ID. For the XML bean definition reader, it has given the ID as 48. Okay. So now at the top you can see a few options. When I say terminate, it's going to terminate the run, come out. So no, we are not bothered about it. When you say resume, it's going to complete the execution. Right now it has the held at this particular point, right? It's going to resume and complete the execution. I'm not going to go with it. We have the two other options. One is step into and step over. Step into is nothing but if you have our own Java classes, you want to go through your classes and see execution line by line, then you need to go it. If it is system defined, user defined, not the user defined, it's Java defined programs, then you should not never go for it because it's not required to go into the system defines the programs and look over them. So we are not going to use it if it is system defined. If it is user defined, yes, we are going to use step into. For now, the reader.load definitions is the system defined, right? It's predefined. So I'm going to not click step into, I'm going to click step over. You can also use F6, but it's not a good teaching practice. So I'm going to going to click on this icon, F6. Saying that something has got executed. You're saying that it has executed this thing. Now it's moved to the second point. Okay. You can see the things getting highlighted. It right now it's the pointing to this. Let me click it again. Step over. Yeah, now you can see it's a little bit slow. So right side you can see it has executed this line and went to second pointer. So this one, it has created an object one with the ID. You can also with a unique ID 276. You can also see the value here, person at the rate 265 4635 4635. So again click step over, go to the second line. Even you can see the IDs are same, and you can also see the values for the both object 1 and object 2. We have the same person value objects address, this object address. So let again execute all of them. You can see, so all these objects, the 5 objects have the same ID and have the same address. Okay, so let's change the, as we have completed, I'm going to click this. Now we have come out of it. Okay, come out of the debug mode. If you can also go to the log4j, you can see it has just created instance of bean one time. Now let's change the application context scope as prototype. Okay, and save it. Now go to the app.java. Now we are in the prototype, and again right click, um, right click on our project. Yeah, our project is not that one. Our project is this. You can, let me open my app.java. Okay, this is my program main class, and my application context is the bean configuration file. I'm going to click on my bean and change the scope as prototype. I've changed it to prototype. Okay, now I'm going to right click on my the project or the main class. Anything's fine. Run as Java application. No, not as Java application. I'm going to say right click on it. I'm going to say run as debug as Java application. Okay, and you should know our pointer is at reader. Okay, it has created three variables. Okay, and it has this value, this address. For session, it has string of 0, nothing, unique IDs. Now let me click step over F8. Mhm. It has executed this line. Now it is pointing to this. When I click step over again, it's going to execute this the highlighted line. Okay, it's executing. You can see the object is created. One is created with the ID 274. You can see the address person at the rate hash code. Okay, now again let me execute. Oh, created a second object, but you can see the IDs are different. As it is prototype, it's going to create different new objects for each and every um, getBean method. Okay, so let me run the remaining. So it has created 5 objects. You can see the 5 have the five different IDs, and even the address is different. You can see at the bottom it's changing. So it has created 5 different objects for the prototype. So that's how we can debug and get to know whether get to know how many objects are being created for the singleton and for the prototype. Okay, we're going to discuss about the other important thing. So that's the scopes, prototype and singleton. Now I'm going to go to the app.java. Okay, I'm going to remove all this stuff. Right now what we have been doing is, okay, now I've terminated it. Now let me remove all these things and type it again. Here we have default listable in factory. Let me say, type it again, new of default listable bean factory, control 1. I'm going to say container. I'm going to say new of XML bean definition reader. I'm going to mention container there. Control 1 and enter, and I'm going to give the name it as reader. Now I'm going to say reader dot load bean definitions. So load control space. So we have already discussed the difference between we already seen the resources, the string location. Resources, we have two different classes. Resources and interface, which implements many it's been implemented by many other classes like file system resource, other means class path. Okay, those are two classes we have already discussed. We're going to go with the string location for now, and I'm going to mention my main configuration file. It's application context XML. You want to mention complete path. Now container dot I'm gonna say, oh, I mentioned the wrong name, so that's the reason why it's not giving me correct guess when I click control space. Now get bean get bean of, till now we have been selecting get bean of string name. Okay, we have been using this thing, we are mentioning the bean name, and when I say control 1 enter, it's taking object. Hmm? String object. Now what we're doing is we're saying typecasting it of object. So this is how we are typecasting. Okay, this is how we are creating the bean object and assigning it to the person. Okay, it's creating the superclass, and again we are typecasting and assigning it to the person, or else we can also type it this way. We can also use get bean string name, and the person is the name of the bean, control 1. So instead of taking the superclass, and direct assign to person and typecast it, we can typecast it. This way we can create the object, and with this we can call the display method and run it. So this bean is saying that this bean is not available. Why it is so? Let me go to configuration file, check the photo source, check the name of the bean. Oh, name of the bean is P, it's not person. Good. So now I'm going to change to P. Save it and say run as Java application. Okay. So if you look at here, we are writing typecasting and all the doing all this stuff. Why it is so? It's a huge code. Even this or this, it's a huge code. Again, we are typecasting, we are creating an object, and again changing to the person class, again typecasting. It's taking a lot of time, right? So let's do one thing. Let's comment this one as well. Comment this one as well. Now I'm going to show you a shortcut. So what we have been doing, we are doing container dot get bean. So we have been selecting string name, second one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the fourth option. Here you can see string name class of T. It returns thing what we have mentioned in the class. So it's going to return this T. Till now we have been using the string of name. It's returning object, right? So now instead of returning object, we are going to return T. The things whatever you have, the class whatever you mentioned there in the get bean. So it's going to refund that particular object. Okay, we need to mention string name. String name is the name of the bean and the class. Okay, so let's use this thing. So what is the name of the bean? Its name of the bean is P. Good. What is the class name? Class name is person dot class. Okay. I'm going to say write control 1. Assign, when I click, it's going to automatically select person instead of object. Okay. Let's create the bean. With this bean, you can main object display and run it. Display and run it. This is quite simple when compared to this and this. Because this thing is returning object, again we are typecasting and all doing all those stuff. So here in the single shot we are getting all those things. Let me repeat. We're getting container dot get bean. We are selecting the fourth option, string name comma class of T. So which class you mention, that return type it's going to return. So if you mention T, it's going to return T. If it is A, it's going to return A. If it is person, it's going to return person. If it's person class, it's going to return person object. Okay. So I'm going to select this. Name of the bean. Name of the bean is P, and the class control 1 enter, control 1 assign, so create a person. Okay. For this person reference variable, you can call the class and run it. Right click on it, run as Java application. It's running. So that's all for now. Thank you.